Hey, y'all. As a growing family, my husband and I love game night, especially when it's Wayfair edition.
Let's do it. You gotta name as many Wayfair furniture and decor categories as you can. Ready? Go.
Sofas, bar stools, beds, ottomans, outdoor seating, bookshelves, kitchen tables, garden sheds, mid-century modern lamps.
Time. Nice. You got 9 out of a lot. Not too bad. Keep practicing by visiting Wayfair.com, where you can shop every style for every home.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
2 inept government workers are sent on a secret mission to the Soviet Union. Special guest Eddie Perez-Cortes joins us to discuss the next James Bond, impressive facial comedy, and the one reason to watch the Weird Science TV show. Then we find out if Spies Like Us stands the test of time.
Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? James says gladiator with a glut. Alan says as a father, blah blah. It's the test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today?
Hello, everybody, and Happy New Year. It's the first test of time of 2026. My name is Alan Noah, and joining me, as always, is you, James Brief.
Wow, we are getting into our 10th year of recording podcasts out. It's our something anniversary. But today we have a very special guest with us.
Yes, coming back on the show is our friend Eddie Perez-Cortes. Welcome back, Eddie.
Thank you guys very, very much. 10-year anniversary, I believe, is steel, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know.
Oh.
But maybe you guys should give each other some steel.
I don't think I'm going to do that. But I am really glad that you're back here to talk about Spies Like Us. The 40th anniversary of Spies Like Us was back in December. We missed it. Oops. It's hard to record in the holiday season. It's hard to find time.
It's very hard to record. It's hard to find time. I mean, last time we were looking for a slot for 3 months?
Yeah. I mean,
when we did American Pie?
I think so, yeah. We did have to reschedule that. So whatever, it's close enough to the 40th anniversary.
And I'm really excited to be here at the start of 2026. I'm excited to rock in the new year with you guys.
Well, we are excited to have you here for this first episode of 2026, and we're just excited to have you here in general. So Spies Like Us, we'll get into it. This is a spy spoof. Famously, there's Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery. There's Top Secret, a movie we did on the podcast.
Exclamation point.
Exactly. I felt like I was kind of saying it in my delivery, but fine.
You were.
So there are spy comedies out there.
And of course, the classic spy film that everyone thinks of is James Bond.
Sure.
And recently they finished up the Daniel Craig James Bonds.
I love James Bond. I've seen a lot of James Bond movies. I'd love to come back and do a James Bond movie with you guys. I actually, little known fact, I had all of the James Bond novels in written form. I know you guys used to talk about the novelization way back when.
Right.
They do not stand the test of time, spoiler alert.
A lot of sexism and
yes.
racism too,
Racism,
maybe?
sexism, yeah. Very much white male focused.
And that's true about many of the movies too.
Yes. The reboot of Casino Royale, if you guys have seen it,
Sure.
is beat for beat almost identical to the actual novel, Casino Royale.
Except Baccarat, right?
Except Baccarat instead of poker, exactly. But the movie does a very good modern retelling of the novel.
Let me ask you this. So there's going to be a new James Bond. As of this podcast, we have not heard who this will be. Do you think it should be a complete unknown because we're really there for James Bond, not for blank as James Bond? Or do you think it should be a known actor?
I'd like to see the new James Bond be sort of non-traditional James Bond. What I mean by that is, James Bond has always been a white male. I would like to see either be like a black British actor or a female actor. I've also heard the new James Bond could be a female.
Well, in the last Bond movie, No Time to Die, there is a new 007, Nomi, and she takes over the 007 moniker.
Yeah.
And she was a pretty cool character.
She was.
There's no reason why they couldn't do a direct sequel continuing 007 with Nomi, I don't think that Amazon Studios will want to do that.
Yeah.
You know, they bought the name James Bond and that's IP for you, you know, like the name recognition is everything. But yeah, I mean, I think that they should do something interesting, something different. Will they? Who knows?
Probably not. I think the most risque they would probably do would be casting a black actor.
You know, it's been debated countless times about what James Bond should be. I do believe James Bond has to be British, and I think the character of James Bond is a male. But you bring up a very good point that 007 certainly doesn't have to be a male.
We talked about the fact that the novels were so sexist and racist. It would actually be interesting to see a female 007 going out and being sexually active, using her sex charm to solve crimes or to be a spy, would actually be an interesting take on a James Bond type story.
There was a spy-ish movie like that a few years ago, Red Sparrow.
There was a
Yeah, like
Netflix miniseries also that my wife and I saw it. I forgot what it's called now. Female spies that went into the British intelligence and infiltrated British politics.
Black Widow.
That was it.
I meant the Marvel movie.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that is a female spy organization. Yeah, there's also superhero stuff, but the movie Black Widow is kind of like a Bond movie. It's a spy story.
I mean, the idea about spies inspired so many stories over the years. I mean, you've got the Bourne Ultimatum series. You've got Mission Impossible, which you guys have done.
Sure.
Hot take, I did not enjoy the first few movies and I stopped watching them after a while. But even the Bourne movies, I read the Bourne books also. The Bourne books were kind of a bore, no pun intended. But the Bourne movies were, I think, a good reflection and good retelling of those stories also.
Right. Well, let's get into this spy movie, Spies Like Us. This is a spy comedy that you requested, Eddie. What's your background with this movie?
I had not watched it since this viewing in quite some time, but I do remember it being on quite frequently in my childhood on WPIX,
Okay.
on HBO. Watched it, maybe not from end to end, but it would turn on. It would be one of those things that you would have on sort of in the background.
Got it.
And it was one of those movies that my mom enjoyed and just, sort of part of my childhood.
Okay, a movie that you enjoyed watching as a little kid.
Yeah.
You had a collection of VHS tapes that your mom or dad might have recorded for you. Maybe there were commercials in it. Maybe you were lucky enough that your parent kind of pressed pause during the commercials that skipped them. Spies Like Us was one of those films. That was just one of the 8 films we had. And so I saw this film a lot as a kid.
Well, I'm odd man out. I had never seen this movie before 2 days ago.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was excited to watch it because I like comedies. And I know Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase are funny actors. And I know John Landis is a director of comedies that I've liked. So I was all in to watch this movie. But James, why don't you tell our listeners what the movie's all about?
Spies Like Us is a Cold War comedy that follows 2 bumbling government employees, Austin Milbarge, played by Dan Aykroyd, and Emmett Fitzhume, played by Chevy Chase. And due to their perceived incompetence, the 2 are recruited as decoy spies for a top-secret mission. After basic training, they are sent to Asia under the guise of conducting reconnaissance, while 2 real agents carry out the actual operation. Along the way, one of the real agents is killed, and Milbarge and Fitzhume team up with the other spy, Karen Boyer. Boyer leads them to a Soviet ICBM nuclear missile, which they launch towards the United States. Luckily, Milbarge figures out a way to reroute the missile, preventing a nuclear war.
Wonderful. So when this movie came out 40 years and a couple weeks ago in 1985, how did it do at the box office?
The film had a $22 million budget. It opened number 2 with $8.6 million, on its way to a 7 times multiplier with about $60 million domestically, 77 worldwide.
Wow.
This movie made a lot of money.
So 1985 was a big year for Chevy Chase. He had 3 big movies in 1985. He had this, which is actually his biggest movie, believe it or not.
Right.
He also had Fletch and National Lampoon's European Vacation.
Right. I feel like I did see that in the trivia or something, that this movie actually made more money than Fletch and European Vacation, but both of those movies got sequels, and there was never a Spies Like Us sequel.
Yeah. 1985 for Chevy Chase. Is there another year for another comedian, another actor that's been bigger than 1985? The only
100% 1994 Jim Carrey.
That was the one I was going to say. 1994 Jim Carrey
It's
with
the trinity of
The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, and Ace Ventura.
Starting with Ace Ventura. Yeah.
Chevy Chase is top billed. And in my opinion, because I just love Ghostbusters so much, I think, well, Dan Aykroyd should be top billed. But Chevy Chase was the bigger movie star at this time. So the movie starts with Chevy Chase as this incompetent diplomat, right? When he does that press conference, and he's basically just spewing nonsense.
That's basically an SNL bit.
It's very sketch comedy-esque, and there are quite a few moments like that throughout this movie.
There are.
It also did feel of this current moment of this administration where someone says, look, I'm going to tell you what happened. And then they just say nonsense. It's just word salad. Honestly, it's a kind of a timeless joke because you're just making fun of government incompetence. There's certainly a lot of that in the movie. Then you have Aykroyd's character who shows up who's not incompetent. He is quite good at his job. In fact, he's so good that he's hidden away in this basement. He's basically doing his boss's job for him. There's a line where he says he's so mad at his boss, he's not going to give them the Disney Channel for free, which is kind of a funny gag.
But that's a great test of time thing, because
Exactly.
that was a thing in the 80s. If someone could kind of hook up the cable box for you, or later in the 80s or 90s, those D-scramblers, remember those boxes? And someone...
From the last movie I was with you guys on, American Pie, when he descrambled the porn channel.
Right. Exactly.
There's another test of time reference in that scene when he's in the basement. He tells him to clean off his desk. He's got the styrofoam McDonald's box on the desk.
Oh,
remember those?
I remember when those went away. And
that was a big deal.
It was, yeah.
Now you can't keep the cold side cold and hot side hot.
I mean, yes.
The two meet each other at this test that they have to take to get promoted.
Quote unquote promoted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The cheating that Fitzhume does is basically all the different kinds of cheating. Like, he's got answers on the eye patch, and he's got a fake cast with answers, and he's got answers in his mouth. He's coughing really loudly as he tries to look at everyone else's answer. And I get what they're going for. They're just going for all the different kinds of jokes. I think if you're going to cheat with a method, pick one, any one of those, with all of the things in his mouth. If you're going to go to that trouble, do that, and then cheat off of that thing in your mouth, but don't do all of the things.
There are a lot of problems that I had with this particular scene. The dichotomy of these two characters, Fitzhume, Chevy Chase's character, who is such a bumbling idiot, versus Dan Aykroyd's character, who is clearly very educated and knows what he's doing. How do these guys actually help each other in this scene? Right? When they've only met each other for the first time. Now, you can sort of get past this with the fact that as an audience in 85, you know that Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd are good friends and have been on SNL together.
Right.
So you can sort of get past this fact. But seeing this movie 40 years later, you're kind of scratching your head and saying, how is this happening? Also, they completely waste Frank Oz in this entire scene, who's the proctor.
Well, yes, but that is also a thing that John Landis does, where he puts directors in his movies in really, really small roles, and there's a ton in this movie.
But you can imagine Frank Oz doing Yoda and being like, do or do not, you will try to, you will not.
I agree. It's a waste of Frank Oz, but it's also a waste of Joel Cohen, Sam Raimi, Terry Gilliam all have really tiny roles in this movie. And they're there just because John Landis likes putting directors in his movies.
It's kind of random, but yeah.
Yes.
I happen to think that Frank Oz, I kind of think he's still very funny in it when he just looks at him. Are you saying that I can have $100?
$1,000.
$1,000
Yeah.
if I, sit down. And just the way he looks at one scene and turns on the security cameras is funny. I just don't get exactly, why does Milbarge join him. And
Exactly.
that's also
Yeah.
kind of what's missing in
Yeah.
the film is the one scene. I feel like they should really maybe dislike each other, or there should be some good bonding part. But it seems like right away they literally shake hands and they're like, "Hi, my new BFF. Hi, my new BFF."
It's a kind of Joseph Ex Machina, to quote you, James, to just kind of say, like, we know that these guys are friends in real life, and we're just going to go beyond this, and you guys, as an audience, are going to have to accept this.
It's a leap in logic because Milbarge is smart and he does know things. And yeah, he didn't have a lot of notice for this test and he didn't have a lot of time to study. But the fact that he just instantly goes along with the
Yeah.
stranger's plan to cheat, it doesn't make sense. But it works out because then the two of them are paired up to be the decoys. And the government guys who want to send these two on the secret mission because there is a real mission going on and these guys are going to be the fake ones, their decision is that it is a need-to-know basis for Fitzhume and Milbarge. It's also a need-to-know basis for us, the audience. Like, we are in the dark along with these two characters because we don't really know what's going on. We know that there's a Soviet missile that they have pictures of from space.
When you see the Russian ICBM plowing through this virgin forest is such an 80s picture in your mind, right?
Yeah.
Like, fuck all of nature. Here is this giant nuclear missile that's just crashing through the Russian forest.
From the evil empire.
From the
of
evil
Soviet
empire,
Union.
yeah, exactly. And the first scene where this, I guess, spy comes in and has the briefcase attached to his wrist, and then he's got the pictures of the ICBM, but he can't see them, so they put him into the closet.
Right.
That is a very funny scene. I laughed out loud at that
I
scene.
like that, and I also just love the concept of briefcase handcuffs. I
Yeah.
think that's cool. I think that would be a funny prank in like your teens or 20s to walk around the subway and just say nothing, but just have like sunglasses and have like a handcuff on your briefcase. I think that'd be funny. Although someone would probably try to steal that from you, which wouldn't be as funny.
Cut off your arm.
But it would
Yeah.
also make people like look and be like, huh, what is that?
But that first scene also introduces some of the characters who are sort of kind of pop in and pop out throughout the rest of the movie.
Right.
At the end, you kind of realize that they're the quote unquote bad guys because they've been leading on these GLG 20s to do something that's perhaps illegal.
Right. So little Eddie, although actually as a little kid, I imagine you still tall.
I was still tall.
Okay,
Yes.
fine. So young, tall Eddie. I'm imagining you loved the training montage. Am I guessing right?
I think I liked better the part in Pakistan with the doctor.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. The reason I ask is because the training sequence feels very sketch comedy. It feels just like a series of gags. It's not really a montage, but it's kind of sort of a montage with just gag after gag after
Yeah.
gag. And I can imagine a kid liking it. You have to suspend belief here. I think the movie really goes into some absurdist comedy that really isn't terribly present before that. I mean, maybe the cheating scene, but that is a thing a dumb guy might try to do. But here, where they're being trained and they fall into a bog, and then the soldiers fire machine guns
Yeah.
into the bog.
Or they're put into a plane and they're dropped off of a 3-story building.
Right.
Did you notice the names that they gave
Yes.
these things?
Yes.
The names are funny.
Yeah.
And now we will administer Air Force Rapid Vertical Descent
Yeah.
Impact Training. And
Yeah.
it's just them falling off
It's
an
funny, but
airplane.
it's also a very big testament to how much comedy has changed over the last 40 years.
Yes.
To Al's point before, right? Young Eddie, 5, 6-year-old, 7-year-old Eddie, when he was watching this, he probably would have been hysterical laughing at this part. But a mature audience of our age is not going to laugh at this part anymore.
It's slapstick.
Yeah. Since Fitzhume and Milbarge were just the decoys, was this actual training or was this just all made up?
It's either pure movie comedy or This is actually an actual legitimate, intelligent diversion for these GLG 20s to just buy some time for them. Although I don't get why they didn't just send them down to one of these forts in Texas and just send them to regular basic training for 6 weeks or whatever.
It's the first one. It's padding out the movie's runtime with dumb comedy.
Yeah, and I think it has to be because any of those things, the airplane one that's hard to explain because that seems like you have to die from that one.
All the obstacle courses with the grenades coming in, the parachuting in, and then the ninjas.
That's it. That's the one part that makes it, I think it might be pure comedy, like Al says.
Not only are they like attacked by ninjas, but also they land on top of each other. I mean, that's not how it would work. It's all very cartoony, and it's clearly done for comedy.
Except for the one-liners. I mean, what's a dick for?
Yeah, sure. When they go in the gravity spinner thing, and then after their faces are still kind of frozen, like, hey, do you want to get some coffee? That was mildly funny.
How did they do that? Was that just them stretching their faces?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
It was Jim Carrey-style physical comedy.
Oh, yeah, elastic face like that.
Yeah.
I actually think it's more impressive. Because I was looking this time, is there plastic on there? Are there strings they're pulling? No, it's just them smiling like really tight and pulling their eyelids.
Well, I mean, Chevy Chase was known primarily for physical comedy. Dan Aykroyd less so, but I mean, he did some of that in the Ghostbusters movies too. So it was impressive face work. But then they end up in Pakistan when they're done with their training. They meet up with their contacts, but no, they're not their real contacts. They're KGB agents, one of whom is Marmalade from Animal House.
Right.
I was excited to see that guy again because I genuinely don't think I'd ever seen him in anything else other than Animal House. There's another kind of cartoony comedy moment where they're walking away from them in the Jeep, and then all of a sudden they're in front of them, which could not realistically happen, but it's just that
It's
kind
made
of
for
movie.
laughs. But this for me, when they get to Pakistan, this for me is when the movie turns in a way, in a surprising way, viewing it 40 years later. It's very telling that Dan Aykroyd's character is extremely intelligent and knows what he's doing, right? He realizes right away that this is a KGB agent because of his watch.
Yeah.
Very, very smart, very intelligent spy ability. But then also the whole Pakistan scene, which actually was filmed in the Sahara Desert, for a movie in the 80s, for a comedy movie in the 80s, could have gone a very different way, and it didn't.
What do you mean?
So they used all actual natives from the area. They did not use any white men in brownface, and they did not make any layup type jokes about ethnic foods or about the culture or about anything like that. For a movie of its time in the 80s, I felt like this was a progressive comedy movie.
You bring up an excellent point. I never realized, and like I've seen this movie so many times, I would have done almost nothing these characters did the first half of the film. And once they get to Pakistan, I can't totally disagree with most of the things
They're no
that
longer
they
fish
did.
out of water. Maybe it's the training that they went through, the fake training that they went through, or maybe it's something else, but it takes a turn and it becomes much more legitimate. Still a comedy. There's still a lot of comedic elements, but it becomes, as a spy movie, much more legitimate.
They do then make the Rambo 3 mistake, quote unquote, where they see the Afghani freedom fighters and are like, oh, they're our allies.
Yeah.
They're the good guys.
Yeah.
Which, stood the test of time for maybe 15 years or so before September 11th. Then when they get into this village and they are pretending to be the doctors.
Doctor.
And that is probably the most famous scene we should talk about, the single most famous scene from this film. Had you seen that scene or heard of it?
No.
I think that's a funny scene.
It's funny, but it goes on way too long.
It goes on way too long, but you didn't laugh after like the 40th Doctor?
No. So
it didn't go long enough to come back around. Family Guy would have done it 3 times as long. And it would have been funny again, and then it would have been like, all right, can we stop it now?
They do it twice.
There's probably 3 extra doctors in the room, which at least is 6 extra doctor. Or, 3 extra doctor.
But this is also where you meet the other spy, played by Donna Dixon, who happens to be actually Dan Aykroyd's wife in real life.
Yes. And they are technically still married, although separated, apparently. That was a recent thing. But the comedy there with her is that Fitzhugh is hitting on her because she's beautiful, and he just immediately is not only hitting on her, but he grabs her breasts.
Yes. The funniest line in that scene, I cracked up laughing when she goes, "Can I call you Homer?" And he goes, "Why?"
Right.
I thought that was funny.
He forgets that that's his
doesn't realize that's his
alias.
name. Yeah.
Do you think she knows?
100% she does.
She knows
Yes.
that they're not
Yes.
spies.
She knows that they are not
Not
real
real
doctors.
doctors.
doctors,
That's
yeah.
not real doctors.
Yeah.
That's what I'm wondering.
Well, then why does she insist that they do a surgery?
Because they're not doctors either, and I think she's pretending to be a doctor, isn't she?
Yes. but-
Although she pretends to be like, I think an infectious disease. They introduce her as something that she's not a surgeon.
Right. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, I don't think you're supposed to think about it that way,
You're
that
not.
it doesn't make
You're
sense.
not.
But these two are surgeons, so they have to do this surgery to save the life of this leader because if
Khan's brother.
Right, and if he dies in surgery, then that will be a terrible insult. And then he dies before they even start the surgery, and that's still a terrible insult. That doesn't make any sense. He died of a heart attack before the surgery began.
Well, he said to die in a tent is shameful, so he dies in a tent. I mean, I could get that this guy wants to die, in battle.
This is a long SNL skit.
Yes.
This whole part is another long SNL skit.
Yes.
I laughed at the fact that they have to shave the patient and they start shaving they go to shave his beard.
Right.
Dan Aykroyd's character ducks down and reads the book. James, you're a doctor. Can you imagine being in surgery and going down and reading the book every time you have to do the next step?
I mean, I hope it comes to the point where the medical students are not ChatGPTing it right before they get into the operating room. Fitzhugh, Chevy Chase, he gets out of doing the surgery because he goes, "I injured my hands last week." And you're like, "Oh, okay, good. That's smart of you. Find any excuse why you can't do surgery." Then he suddenly is like, because she starts coming on to him, then he's like, "Oh, well, I can get the mill barge to do the surgery for me. That's it." And you're like, head smack. But I can understand telling a woman something, stupid because you want to impress her.
Dan Aykroyd's character in the surgery scene is pure comedy gold. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed seeing it again when he says, "And now the first incision. And now I'm going to incise."
and he looks over to
Yeah.
the other doctors. Are those the directors?
Yeah.
And they just shake their head no because
Yeah.
he's trying to incise at the nipple.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's through the ribs, and then finally he's at the right area. Shake their head.
I thought it was funny.
Also, it did occur to me that Chevy Chase as the ladies' man is a thing we've seen before in Fletch, in Caddyshack. He likes to play this kind of Lothario character. Okay, sure, neat. He gets to make out with pretty actresses. Good for him. But I just don't buy him as this kind of
He's not a
guy.
very handsome.
I think you don't have to necessarily be classically handsome to be a ladies' man. I think you could be charming in other ways, but he's not charming.
Fitzhugh is a Nepo baby. Let's go back to the beginning. He says in the first scene, "My father is blah, blah, blah." This is also where it gets to be, a bit progressive in terms of the movie for being in the 80s, because he is a bit of a ladies' man, but he's sleeping with the supervisor to get higher. This is a bit of a role reversal. You normally see the woman sleeping with the male to get higher. Here is Chevy Chase's character sleeping with his female supervisor to get the promotion.
And it doesn't work. I get what you're saying. I don't know that I'm going to qualify that as progressive. This movie was originally supposed to star Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi.
John Belushi, yeah.
And then he died,
Yeah.
and Chevy Chase took over the role. Belushi, also not a classically handsome guy, I could see him more as the ladies' man character because he's charming.
It's the last shot of Animal House. He gets with the sorority girl.
Exactly. He just has charisma.
That je ne sais quoi.
Riz, as the kids called it a year ago or whatever. And I just don't see that with Chevy Chase. But whatever. So they end up leaving this village in Pakistan. They're run
And then
out.
making a collect call back to the Defense Department, which again was hilarious. I thought that was funny.
It is funny. Doesn't stand the test of
Does
time.
not stand the test of time at all. And the people in the Department of Defense are like, wait, so he said where he was on an open line? They're like, no, he said to the operator where he was, who said to another operator.
Right.
I laughed at that.
And at that point, they are in the secret base underneath the drive-through,
Yes.
or drive-in, rather,
Yes.
movie theater. That was one gag that I did laugh at when they say, why don't you go in and have a Pepsi?
Pepsi, yeah.
It's really just the way that it's edited, where they go to push the button on the Pepsi machine and then immediately go flying down the elevator shaft. That I thought was a good visual gag. Yeah, so then they send them on this road. They encounter the other
The
agent.
road to what in Russia?
Yeah, there's like one road from
Yeah.
Pakistan into Russia, apparently. And so they're on the road.
This is also where the costuming, I think, takes a really strong turn also.
With the
Where
coats?
With the coats, yeah, with the very big, aggressive, like sort of like moleskin coats or whatever you want to call it. I laughed just thinking of these two characters walking up these giant mountains, getting gradually colder and colder and colder, and now having to don all this fur that they brought with them. They make it to the road, and then all of a sudden they're talking, and then all of a sudden the lights come on, and there's this police car right there.
Right.
That cracked me up again also.
Like, how did this car
Yeah,
get
exactly.
in the
How
middle
this car
there?
get exactly.
Mountains, yeah.
Get right there. Another good visual gag.
Yeah, and then Milbarge smartly bails.
Just jumps down the mountain.
Right.
And happens to fall into the other spies.
Right. And that's where we find out that Boyer and one of the other doctors are the real spies. Then he says, so wait, you're spies like us? They did the thing where they say the title. And she's like, and you're the decoys. But Milbarge wants to go rescue Fitzhume because he's going to be tortured. And that's some Chevy Chase shtick there where he says, for every question you don't answer, I'm going to cut off a finger. Yours or mine. Yours! Ah, damn it. You know, it's kind of dad joke kind of stuff, but whatever. It's funny.
Yeah. And then he punches him and he says, I thought you were going to cut off my finger.
Right. He's very, very literal.
He is.
Which I can appreciate.
When Milbarge is rescuing Fitzhume from that the Soviet little cabin, they're having a firefight at one point. One of the guards runs outside the back door to grab a box of grenades. And there is this majestically gorgeous backdrop. It's either a huge matte painting or they just filmed in Wyoming or something. Or I think it filmed in Norway for a lot of
filmed
stuff.
in- yeah, filmed in
So
Norway, yeah.
it's
It
just
was.
absolutely gorgeous.
In the Soviet camp, they also have posters of American communist films, like Red, I think, and another communist film from the 70s or 80s.
The soundtrack in this film, I think, is fantastic. It's by this incredibly famous composer, Elmer Bernstein. He did the Ten Commandments and the Seven Samurai.
Animal House.
He did Animal House. He did Blues Brothers, Three Amigos, Ghostbusters, Airplane, Meatballs. Yeah, he did a lot of comedies for Dan Aykroyd, I guess. And that
John
group there.
Landis.
I think this has a really good soundtrack.
I disagree. I think this is a weaker Elmer Bernstein score.
Hard disagree. It's a wonderful
I'm going to agree.
full score.
I'm going to agree with Al on this one. I completely
you.
forgot the score at this point.
So now it's Fitzhume, Milbarge, Boyer, and they encounter a handful of Russian agents and the missile. And Fitzhume and Milbarge are like, you know what? We're out. This is a nuclear missile. This has been fun, but, you know, this is where we draw the line. And Boyer gives this really passionate speech about, no, this is what I've been training for. There's some bad line, which is, it's been 2 years I've been working towards this penetration or something. And then Chevy Chase is like, but she says it's for the American way of life. But Fitzhume and Milbarge, they don't want to kill anybody. And she's like, oh, that's fine. We don't have to kill anyone. I was like, well, hold on. If it's that important of a mission and it's literally to protect America as we know it, yeah, maybe you do need to be okay with shooting some Soviets. But all right, they don't want to do that. So their plan is to dress up like aliens. It's just a terrible costume that doesn't look particularly alien-esque. It's just dumb. It's just very, very stupid.
My question would be, where did they get all the Christmas lights?
Fair.
The only part I think is good enough.
But then they do finally they subdue all the Russians. They get to the ICBM. The people in the Defense Department in the bunker give them instructions to basically send off the missile. Unbeknownst to them, it launches to the U.S.
So we, the audience, don't know what this mission is still. I mean, we are deep into Act 3, and we don't know. And Fitzhugh and Milbarge don't know. Boyer is maybe in the dark, maybe not. It's not really clear. But even though it's unclear exactly what they're doing, it was still crystal clear to me that they were launching this missile. I feel like she had to know that. They had to know that.
Not necessarily. Why couldn't she just think that if she enters this code and that she gets the missile be deactivated or explode or something?
Well, I mean, you would think that she wouldn't want it to just explode right there and then.
On a timer, sure, since I'm making stuff up. But I don't think she necessarily knows what it is. I think she's as surprised as everyone else when the missile launches into space. I think she's surprised.
Maybe. I don't know. It seemed like she shouldn't be that surprised that they were launching this missile. Maybe she thinks that they're launching it towards Moscow, that they're going to destroy some other Russian nuclear installation or something. But no, it turns out that they're launching it towards America to test the Star Wars laser defense system. Okay, cool, I guess. They do the Star Wars pew 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 lasers that come from the movie theater. Terrible special effects, but it's 1985. I mean, there are better laser special effects in Star Wars at this point, but maybe they spent all their budget on the location shooting. I don't know, whatever, doesn't matter. The lasers work, but they miss the target. And then it's like, oh, well, that's okay too, because now we can just start World War III and we have all these nuclear weapons and you don't want to waste them. So it's kind of Dr. Strangelove-esque at this point. Some of the guys in the bunker are like, well, we have to notify the president. And some are like, whatever. I was really kind of surprised by that turn. I felt like, oh, that's what this bumbling comedy was about, starting World War III and nuclear annihilation.
It definitely had Strangelove vibes at that point in time. I did think about it. And in fact, one of the early cuts of the movie did have the end of the movie as total world annihilation.
Right.
And it didn't test well with the audiences. Yeah.
Yeah, and there is a shot at the end where you see Fitzhugh and Milbarge and they're celebrating like after the missile is destroyed. That is very clearly green screen, which is noticeable because so much of the movie is not green screen and, it's shot on location. And the yay, hooray, we did it, we stopped it is so bad green screen. I did think it was kind of funny how they pair off when they realize, okay,
yes,
the world's going to end. We only have a couple of minutes left, or 45 minutes, I think they say. Might as well have sex. Boyer says to Fitzhugh, if we were in a bar, I'd slap you. But the world is going to end, and yeah, sure. Kind of doing the math on the numbers of how many men and women there were. I was like, oh, how are they going to make this work? And two of the guys just go off and pair together, which I think, to your point, Eddie, about it being kind of progressive, there's no gay jokes there. It's just these two men are gay and they go to have sex.
Again, 1985. You took the words right out of my mouth. There's no other movie at that time when they're like, this type of scene happens and nothing at all is said about it.
It's interesting you say progressive. It could just as easily be, and I'm not accusing the writers of doing this, but it could just as easily be the joke is gay.
Even so, even if that's it where, oh, I wasn't expecting these two men to go off together and people chuckle in the theater. Okay, you know what? Like, if the chuckle is that it's unexpected, but there's no derogatory joke after that, that is unexpectedly progressive for 85. So I'll give the movie that. The woman that Dan Aykroyd hooks up with is Vanessa Angel, who I loved as Lisa in the Weird Science TV show.
She was
on
in
USA.
Kingpin, right?
Yes, and Kingpin, yes.
She's very hot.
Very, very, very hot. Very hot. That's why I watched Weird Science on the USA Network. It was also funny, I think, but it was mainly because she was super hot.
She also comes out in the freezing cold weather with just a bra.
Right. But, of course, nuclear annihilation is prevented because Milbarge figures out how to hack into the system. Then the movie ends with these guys are now all diplomats and they're all doing nuclear disarmament and deciding who owns...
By playing Trivial Pursuit.
Yeah, like it's a game of Trivial Pursuit and Risk that is determining who controls Eastern Europe. Again, you're just not supposed to think about it. You're just supposed to say, ha ha ha, that's funny. And honestly, fine, they're playing a board game, and fine, it's these characters and not more experienced people. But Trivial Pursuit, for these guys who are Russian?
I absolutely agree with you. Why the fuck are you asking a Soviet about 1950s pop culture? You might as well ask about an American about 1950s Soviet pop culture.
Exactly. During the end credits, there is a song by Paul McCartney called Spies Like Us that is god awful. It's so bad.
I
It's such an
turned the
80s
movie
song.
off right when the actual visual ended, and I completely missed the song. And then I heard about it afterwards. I was like, But then by that point, my Amazon rental had expired.
Well, you can listen to the song on Spotify, but don't. Because
I was
it
about
is
to say,
so
guess what I'm not
bad.
going to be doing?
It's really, really terrible.
I heard.
Paul McCartney, obviously a legend. He has written great theme songs for spy movies.
Yes.
Live and Let Die is an amazing theme song. Maybe one of the best Bond theme songs ever.
Yep.
And this is just pure garbage. John Landis hated it and included it in the movie anyway, because how do you say no to a Beatle? Fine. But yeah, it is a terrible song. But Eddie, let me ask you, we're just going to say each other's names.
Yes, Doctor.
Doctor?
Doctor.
Doctor?
Doctor.
But neither one of us are doctors. This is confusing. But Eddie, let me ask you, do you think that Spies Like Us stands the test of time?
I went back and forth on this one. It was much harder than my previous 5 movies that I've been here for to say whether it does or does not stand the test of time. I think there's a lot of good parts to the story. It's got a good overall plot, a good overall theme that I think could be replicated again today in any movie. Spy comedies certainly are a thing. You look at Austin Powers, look at other movies of that genre, certainly are a thing. The comedy that is in this particular movie, as I mentioned earlier, is just dated. Comedy has moved on. So some of the physical comedies that you see at the beginning just doesn't stand up today. Mm-hmm. However, what I do think tips it a little bit into the favor of where I'm going to ultimately go is the progressive nature of this film. We talked about it, we disagreed a little bit about it, but Chevy Chase's character as being sort of the role reversal in terms of the male sleeping with the woman to advance in his career. We talked about the progressive nature in Pakistan and the fact that they could have easily made a racist joke about the natives. Talk about the 2 men getting together at the end, quote unquote, end of the world. For those reasons, I'm going to say that it does stand up, but barely.
All right. James, what do you think? Do you think the movie stands the test of time?
This film, it was difficult for me as well, because I actually like this film, but I'm very well aware that I'm clouded by I've just seen this over and over. I do find there's funny parts in this film. I really notice how kind of useless Fitzhume is in this film. He really doesn't contribute a single thing, whereas Milbarge, I almost think he's too competent. He's actually, he really doesn't make almost any mistakes. But there's other problems, I don't really know why they're friends. And some of the comedy is just a little bit too absurd, especially the airplane scene. As a kid, I didn't quite understand, are they trying to kill them? I don't think the movie has a strong enough first half. And actually, if Fitzhume had gotten them out of one situation, either he talked them out of the doctor thing, away from the ninjas, if maybe they switched places and Milbarge was captured and Fitzhume rescues him, that might be nice. But I don't find Chevy Chase likable in this film. I never really did. I like Dan Aykroyd in this film. So I like the film personally, but I don't think it stands the test of time. All right, 1-1. You never saw the film. It's got two 80s classic comedians, a classic director. It's got a lot of things going for it. But did it do it for Alan Noah?
No, I did not struggle with this decision at all. This is a very, very unfunny comedy. I smiled a couple times. Maybe I let out a little chuckle or a tee-hee here or there, but I didn't think it was funny. Maybe it's unfair that I had high expectations because of John Landis, because of Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd, but the two leads have zero chemistry. None at all. Chevy Chase is doing shtick that I've seen him do in other movies. Not that it's always hilarious, but it's probably funnier in Caddyshack, and definitely there's less of him in Caddyshack, which I think works to his advantage when he's not on screen the whole time. Gives you a little bit of a break from it. Fletch, I don't really remember all that well. And honestly, same with Dan Aykroyd. When he's in Ghostbusters and he's one of several guys, that works better than when he's half of the main cast.
Like in Blues Brothers?
Yeah, but he has much better chemistry with Belushi.
Oh, okay.
We didn't mention Dan Aykroyd is one of the writers of this movie.
Yeah, the main writer.
He co-wrote it with Dave Thomas, who we saw in Strange
Brew,
right, from SCTV. Very, very funny guy. Babalu Mandel is a writer of this movie who's written a ton of classic comedies. I don't know where this movie went wrong, but I think a lot of it is just the lack of chemistry, the lack of charisma. I don't like these characters. I don't really care about these characters. Milbarge is the more competent one, but also I feel like sometimes he's a genius and a super spy and knows everything, and sometimes he's an idiot, and it kind of just goes back and forth. Reagan is all over this movie. I mean, he is in so many shots where they are in military bases, and there's a giant picture of President Ronald Reagan in the background.
Fitzhugh is actually watching a Reagan
Yeah,
movie
that was
at the
part
beginning.
that.
Right. Fitzhugh's watching the Reagan musical. I didn't know he did musicals. I knew he did movies, but whatever. Like, it's a Reagan era movie. Sure, cool, that makes sense. And who the hell knows what's going to happen with America and Russia now, and the relationship is difficult and complicated. But I think just here in the 2020s, we're not as worried collectively about nuclear war as people were back in the 80s, rightly or wrongly. I mean, I know there was that Netflix movie that came out about nuclear war. I didn't see it, but it's a thing that could still happen. It's a real threat, but it feels very of its time. It feels like a movie about not just nuclear war, but this moment in history and this particular fear of an American-Soviet nuclear war that does feel really dated. Counterpoint to myself, I'm arguing with myself here, I feel like every other day there's a new scandal about fucking Pete Hegseth and, you know, this incompetence that runs the American military today. So, you know, a movie that kind of is mocking military incompetence and how we might just start World War III because there's idiots in charge.
Or we have Nepo babies again.
Right.
They definitely had the equivalent of people calling collect on top secret things. That still happens.
Right. Signalgate. I mean, these kinds of things are still scary. And I think that kind of big picture commentary does stand the test of time. But I just didn't enjoy this movie. I found it long. I found it tedious. I found it really unfunny.
We didn't talk about Bob Hope's random cameo. That was very random.
I did like his line where he says, doctor, and it just goes, glad I'm not sick.
Also, he was famous for being in military places, doing comedy and golfing.
It falls flat today.
It does. But Eddie, thank you for coming back. Thank you for being our very first guest of 2026.
Thank you guys very much for having me on. I always enjoy my time here.
Well, we always enjoy having you. It's been great talking with you. That's going to do it for us this week. Next week, we are going to be talking about Howl's Moving Castle, another Miyazaki movie. It's been a while since our last one. Really looking forward to that. In the meantime, we want to hear from you guys. We are at Test of Time Pod on Facebook, X, Instagram, and Threads. Write to us. Let us know your thoughts about Spies Like Us, Dan Aykroyd, Chevy Chase, all of the things. We love hearing from you. You can also email us, thetestoftimepodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to send us a message for our 500th episode, a text, a DM, an email, a voice note, whatever. We'd really love to include you in our 500th episode. And we'll see you next time, everybody.
Bye.
Doctor.
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 Hi, I'm Chris Gethard, and I'm very excited to tell you about Beautiful Anonymous, a podcast where I talk to random people on the phone. I tweet out a phone number, thousands of people try to call. You talk to one of them, they stay anonymous. I can't hang up. That's all the rules. I never know what's going to happen. We get serious ones. I've talked with meth dealers on their way to prison. I've talked to people who survived mass shootings. Crazy funny ones. I talked to a guy with a goose laugh, somebody who dresses up as a pirate on the weekends. I never know what's going to happen. It's a great show. Subscribe today. Beautiful Anonymous.